And I want to bring in CBS News national security contributor Sam Vinograd. Sam, talk to us about the security risks here to the U.S. and U.S. interests. And what does the news of Israel's airstrikes against Iran mean for talks between the U.S. and Iran that we've been talking about?
Well, Elizabeth, it is worth noting that this is not our first rodeo when it comes to potential threats to Americans and American interests overseas and here in the homeland in light of an Israeli strike against Iran. Again, when Israel struck Iran previously, the U.S. went through a series of exercises to protect its military assets in the region, American citizens in the region, and then importantly, Elizabeth, to also monitor for any threats against Americans here in the homeland. Iran has a vast network of proxies in the Middle East, around the world, and here in the US. And there is always a concern that Iranian proxies globally could be activated if Iran thinks that the United States was in some way, and I'm going to stress the some way here, involved in these Israeli strikes. Even if the US didn't provide military assets or intelligence, if there was some sort of other US involvement or tacit approval, Iran may seek to activate its network of proxies here in the homeland, around the world, and in the region. Particular targets of concern are US military personnel in the region, US diplomats in the region, as well as Americans living overseas. That is why, as CBS has reported, we have seen a drawdown in personnel, particularly in the Middle East, and travel advisories issued as well.
And is it possible then there's a big military parade going on in Washington, D.C. this weekend? Are you hearing any reports of that being scaled back at all or added
I'm not
security?
I'm not hearing reports about the military parade in Washington, D.C. being scaled back. What I would expect, based on my experience at Homeland Security, would be for there to be added security in and around military installations generally here in the United States and around the world. The same will be true for U.S. diplomatic facilities around the world, consulates and embassies. But I will note there is a difference this time around, Elizabeth. The last time that Israel struck Iran, as far as we know, the US and Iran were not in direct discussions. We worked through private channels, through the Omanis and others to communicate messages. At this point, the US and Iran are involved in direct talks. So when it comes to the United States trying to assure Iran that we weren't involved, Special Envoy Witkoff will have a direct opportunity to do that with his Iranian counterpart. So that is different than previous instances of heightened tensions between Iran and Israel and the US and Iran as a result of those other tensions. So I would imagine right now the United States, both through Special Envoy Witkoff and other channels, is trying to convince the Iranians that we were not involved and that any Iranian threats against Americans overseas or here in the homeland would be met with a swift response. So I think that there is a multi-layered response underway by the US right now in light of the Israeli efforts.
All right, Sam Vinograd, thank you so much.